Dude, sorry, I had to drive. I'm sitting in a Royal Farms parking lot for this because I have no internet at my house.
Oh, damn.
Yes, so, well, but here I am. I finally made it. Yeah,
Welcome.
I've never used Zoom before, so I was putting in a passcode when I should have been putting in the meeting ID. So, first time for everything.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, we ready to get started?
Yeah,
think so.
Shoot
Yes.
away. Does anybody want to introduce themselves? I start recording now, so.
All right, perfect. Well, everyone who's watching this, we are four friends all discussing our love of Star Wars. It's Mr. Henry C., Spencer C., AB, and Mr. Borami. So what I would like to do, if you guys are down, is I just wanted to forward some kind of nerd Star Wars questions towards you guys, get your 2 cents, what you guys think as far as where the franchise is now and where the franchise is going, and just kind of reminisce also what you guys would like to see coming for the franchise first. That cool with everybody?
Yeah, I like it.
Cool.
Okay. So the first question that I've been thinking about a lot recently was basically the continuity of all the 9 episodes being put together, then of course bracketing to the different shows, Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, and now how they're pulling all elements from all that. Something, as some of you guys already know, my thoughts on the sequel trilogy when it first came out, but recently there was a statement from Dave Filoni, which, I mean, as brilliant as he is, he talked about how Luke Skywalker made sense in The Last Jedi and he had compared it to Frodo from Lord of the Rings, where he had been through his fight against Mordor, whereas Luke's fight against the Empire and all the things that he had gone through, it still left quite a lot of scars on him, and there's still 27 years of story left that and now that we're going against Thrawn probably, and how I think what they're trying to do is make Thrawn the Thanos of this new universe, but we'll get to that in a second. But my question to you guys is in terms of where Luke Skywalker lied in the new franchise, do you think that it would make sense going from him being the positive hero that he was and seeing him as powerful as he was in the last episode of The Mandalorian and moving into do you think that would make sense in terms of how Dave Filoni described it is he was so scared of facing the evil that he had already once faced that he didn't want to do it all over again, and that's why he took extreme actions against his nephew Kylo Ren. I guess we could start with both and go to Spencer and go to Austin, and then we'll go to the next question.
You mean do I feel agree with the direction that they went with doing that?
Yeah, do you think they'll be able to tie that all together between the original trilogy and the new one?
Yeah, definitely, because there's so much. I feel like there's a lot of story left, like you said, that happened between, when we saw Luke at his peak at the end of Mandalorian and from where he was in Last Jedi. So there's a big gap. There's a big opportunity. Just they can go anywhere with it, really, So I'm with it. I'm like I said, I'm just ready to see how they do it. So I'm just excited.
All right, the Spencer.
Is part of the question whether or not they will keep the sequel trilogy in the main canon? Is that part of the question?
I think it is. I didn't even realize this till my rewatch of Rebels recently that when Ezra goes into the other dimension, the Jedi world between worlds, Kylo Ren's voice is in that realm. So I think at this point it is they're rolling with it, and just to see, do you think they're going to be able to bridge the gap between episode 6 and episode 7 effectively with what they've been doing with Mandalorian?
Oh, 100%. First off, from a business standpoint, they made, if you look at some of the top grossing weekends and box office movies, 3 of the top 5, I believe, are Star Wars or some ratio like that in the top 10. They made a ton of money on them. And 2, it would be much more confusing if they just lopped off 7 through 9 like at this point, because they tied in Star Wars Resistance, the video games at this point. I mean, there's a lot of interconnectivity. I think Mandalorian kind of hints at things with the cloners and stuff, and how, Snoke and ultimately Palpatine was able to return. So I think they've kind of just, like, we can all agree that 7 through 9, like 7 set up a lot of interesting things. 8 was kind of like, well, okay. And then 9 was like, they didn't stick the landing at all. So there's a lot of cool things. If you go before episode 7 and you go after episode 9, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff you can mine from what the sequel trilogy did. It's just that the sequel trilogy was like the law of diminishing returns, as far as you start on episode 7, you're like, okay. And then, like I said, you just go kind of downhill from there. So.
All right, Mr. Austin.
So keep in mind, I haven't seen much of the extended universe, or I haven't read as much of the extended universe either. I'm way behind all the times. My knowledge lies pretty much solely with the movies. So I don't know what gaps have been kind of bridged at this point. But I will say, with concerning Luke and the little that I do know, or little that I've seen at this point, I do think the gap between episode 6, and granted, he's not in episode 7 necessarily until the tail end, but in 8, I think there's a lot of character development, or even regression. I'm not sure which is the appropriate term to use. So I will say, I think there is a lot of story left to be told concerning Luke Skywalker, though we do get a hint of, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've seen The Last Jedi. But Luke has this sense that Kylo does have a, like, dark side tendencies within him, correct? Am I right there?
Yes.
Okay, so I am curious to find out exactly what changed within Luke from, like, the good doer, like, noble hero that everybody loved, into, like, kind of like this hermit and, like, very fractured character. But other than that, I really don't have much to go on.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Sure.
So, like, I 100% agree with that. And not only, like, there was 30 years between the events of Return of the Jedi, which is episode 6, and, The Force Awakens, which is 7. There's 30 years of stuff that happened, which means you can still, if you really wanted to, go and tell like, the birth of Kylo Ren storyline, where you go back either before that and tell, like, what led up to that, and really make it so, like, you totally understand why Luke is on the island in end of episode 7 and episode 8, like, why he's so defeated in there. I think Bo brought up the point about, like, him not wanting to face that all again, or maybe it was Henry, I can't remember, but I totally agree with that too. It's like he was so worn out by that, like, he had lost his father. His sister was paranoid because she got this prophecy during her training that her son is going to go bad, and he's training her son. So, like, there's a lot of story there, but also afterwards too. I mean, I would love to see, like, a universe where Rey's just, like, lone wolfing it across the galaxy as a fully trained Jedi, and, like, Luke just pops up the same way Yoda popped up for him, kind of thing. It's like, all right, what are you doing over there?
Excellent. So the next question I have kind of falls in line with the material that we've been given. One thing I absolutely loved about The Mandalorian is that it paid so much homage to the works that Dave Filoni has worked on in the past with Star Wars. I didn't even realize, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first time I remember seeing Dark Troopers chronologically was in Rebels, when Thrawn was fighting them in his office. And then also seeing things like, obviously, Bo-Katan making, and Ahsoka, and now that Ahsoka's getting her own show. So my next question is, with everything that Dave Filoni's worked on in the past, and all the other extended canons that we have, or even non-canons, because when Disney first took over, they had said that Legends wasn't a part of the actual canon, but then they brought Thrawn in to use him in Rebels, and now when Ahsoka asked where's Thrawn in the one episode of The Mandalorian, it looks like he's going to be the next target. So my next question is, what do you want going forward from the franchise? Like, what are some key things you're looking for? I'll direct this question to Spencer to start.
Oh man, that's so there are, I think, and I'm just ballparking here, like 15 maybe projects they announced at the Disney investor meeting, and ranging from live action to this like Favreau side pocket of the Star Wars universe with like Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic, all those three, and the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, there's 4 TV shows right there on Disney Plus that are all gonna tell this awesome, badass like Mandalorian Boba Fett. I mean, just these, like kind of what we got out of Rogue One, but like a lot more of that, but also, just obviously push towards the Mandalorians. So there's those shows. They have, if I'm not mistaken, there's a show coming out that is called The Acolyte that deals with like the Sith. It's from a Sith point of view, kind of like the Joker movie was. Not that dark, obviously, but something in those lights. So people are like, oh, is this Plagueis and Palpatine? Like, that sounds kind of cool. I don't know if it'll actually be that, but then they've got the High Republic stuff coming out. And I mean, they're doing what I've said they should have done for a long time, which is like plotting out on a timeline where their content exists. And it's typically between episode 1 and now, I guess, episode 9. Like, that's hardcore been told. They're looking past episode 9, before episode 1, and in like that pocket we were talking about earlier between 6 and 7, that's like 30 years of content, that stuff happened and the stories need to be told. I can't believe I didn't the Rogue Squadron movie that Patty Jenkins is directing. I can't wait to see that. Her dad apparently was a fighter pilot, so to see like an actual like kind of like a Top Gun, like maybe Wedges, I don't know. Maybe they cast just totally new people and it's awesome anyways. But there's like, novels based on it. So they've got tons of stuff coming out, and I'm here for just about all of it after season 2 of The Mandalorian. I mean, that was so good. I don't think like last year sucked except for that pretty much.
All right, Mr. Elston.
So, being the gamer that I am, I thoroughly enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order. I thought Cal Kestis was actually a pretty intriguing character. I would like to see maybe not necessarily his personal story develop, because we get it. He's a Padawan who has disconnected himself from the Force, and he has, in a sense, reestablished himself at the end of the game. Spoiler alert if no one's played that game yet. It's a great game, though. You should try it. The cool thing I really appreciate about Star Wars is that gap between episode 3 and episode 4, where, the Empire has first come to fruition and we get to see the downfall of the Republic and the Jedi Order. I think there's a lot of personal stories that are yet to be told that I really like to see. So yeah, a sequel for Jedi Fallen Order, which again is hinted at, would be really nice. Did anyone actually play that besides me?
Oh, yeah, I played it.
I platinumed that
Amazing.
game.
Platinum it? Oh,
Yeah.
Good for you.
Dude, that game is too much fun.
What does it take to platinum that?
You get like all the lightsabers, all the like customization, your skill trees maxed. You got to explore and get all the collectibles and all the different planets. But it was totally worth it because like some of the things are challenging when you have to like go like fight these like monsters basically, and they are like super OP. So yeah, no, that game was tons of fun, and I'm glad you brought it up. I can't believe I forgot that one, man. That was a great game.
Yeah,
I hear you, and I.
Oh, no, okay.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off whoever that was. But yeah, like I said, a sequel would be both highly anticipated and highly likely, I think, at this point. Um, like like I said, the extended universe is not really my forte. I actually dabbled finally into Knights of the Old Republic. So anything before episode 1 would be really nice for me, either gaming or novelization, whatever.
Because
Uh,
correct me if I'm wrong. I think KOTOR is still technically expanded universe. It's not canon, if I'm not mistaken, but they have huge plans for it, is what I keep hearing. Like every year, like when the Game of Thrones people came over, they were supposed to be doing the KOTOR movies. And it's just like I have a feeling eventually it'll be like Obi-Wan, where it's like, oh yeah, we're doing a KOTOR show, like something like that.
mm. I gotta say, just one more thing. I actually didn't like that game at first. I think it plays terribly on consoles, so I got it for my iPhone. And I gotta say, to be able to take that game everywhere I go and kind of play it with like 10 or 15-minute intervals is like the perfect way to play that game. I'm absolutely in love with it now. I'm currently training to become a Jedi. I haven't customized my lightsaber yet, but that's right where I'm about in the game. So I know it's like getting good, but that's a tangent. So
Nice.
All right, Mr. Borami.
Yeah, I was just gonna say off of the Jedi Fallen Order that the team behind that game is like a really the respawn, I guess is name. They did like the original Modern Warfare when it came out, and Titanfall 1 and 2, which I'm a huge fan of. So once I found out they were behind that game, I was like, they're gonna kill this. They're gonna do it right, and they did. They just the story and the way it plays. It's they really know how to make balance and good games. So that's why I just wanted to comment on that. They just did amazing with that. So and the results speak for themselves. I mean, there's no one that hates that game.
Agreed.
Um, but as far as Thrawn, we're moving forward with that. I think he's such a awesome villain, and I can't wait to see how they execute him. Really, my mind's always open. I don't really have too many expectations. I always kind of go into the stories with just kind of see what they have to offer, and it doesn't even have to be complicated. It just has to be executed well. If it's done well, you can take something simple and just do it well. Like I feel like John Wick is like that type of movie. It's like a simple story, but they just do it really well. It's just a lot of action, and you know why he's pissed off all the time. So,
Hell yeah. Hey, who do you think? Which show do you think Sabine shows up in next? Do you think it's Ahsoka first or The Mandalorian?
ooh, Sabine.
I would definitely hope Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think the last we saw of Sabine, she was running off with Ahsoka to find Ezra, which,
Yep.
funny enough, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Like, I have this weird feeling that Ahsoka and Sabine do find Ezra, and by this time, I think 10 years have elapsed since the event of Rebels, so he's 28. And what's crazy about, I think Ezra might actually be in my top 3 Jedis, mainly because of his force powers with talking to creatures like the space whales and the wolves and everything. Like
Space whales.
he might be just as powerful as Luke. I don't know that for sure. This is just me guesstimating because he's powerful, but in different ways. Maybe not as a combatant, and he obviously doesn't have like the heritage that Luke has. And of course, like Luke being trained by Obi-Wan and Yoda, and his scuffles with Vader and the Emperor. But what I will say is, something I'd love to see is Ezra to come back and still have that pull to the dark side, but he's not quite there because Ahsoka's kind of the same way where she's not a Jedi anymore. She just is very, very strong with the Force. But also, Kanan Jarrus, I didn't realize this until yesterday or the day before where I finished it, that him and Hera had a child. And would that be another Padawan learner for Luke in his new Jedi temple? Could he train Kanan's child to be a Jedi?
Yeah, Spectre 7. I wonder. That's a good question. I mean, there's Luke could, Ezra could. I think Ezra would probably, if it was anybody, it'd have to be Ezra, because his bond with Kanan was so strong, and when Kanan sacrificed, like, he was devastated and like realized like that's probably how I have to beat Thrawn, is by flying myself out of here. And yeah, I mean, I guess, what was our original question for this section? Was it
What are you looking forward to most out of the new canon and the new entertainments that are coming out?
Yeah, no, I think if Sabine shows up in Ahsoka's show and their show is to go find Ezra, and it's kind of like a battle for Ezra's soul, well, I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could do it, and I'm excited to see how they explore that, because I think Grand Admiral Thrawn will be a long-term big bad, a la Darth Vader, in my opinion. The way they're kind of trying to reinvent and set him up again, because we saw him for like 2 seasons maybe in Rebels, and he was intimidating. He wasn't like awe-inspiring like I think they tried to make him, but like, it's kind of like Loki going from Thor to what you get out of the Avengers, where it's like he's just been in space somewhere. We don't know where. Ezra took a bunch of force whales and shot him into space, and it's like, where did they go? Like, I have no idea. So he's
One knows, man.
That's why I also find really interesting about Thrawn as a character. It was the season finale, or the last 2 episodes that they had of season 3 in Rebels, where Thrawn, the whole season, he's basically just letting them go. He's not picking them apart one by one. He wanted the glory of being able to do it all at once, which kind of made me think of Thanos in a way. Granted, Thanos was still committing genocide and conquesting across the galaxy, but Thrawn wanted everything like a chessboard. He wanted the playing field to be completely fair, and then he just wanted to wipe out everybody at once. And I think like that moment when they're shooting on the Rebel base before the Bendu shows up, which I'm still very confused by what the Bendu is.
Some
It's
Shadow
like,
Colossus shit right there.
yeah, I'm so confused what it was. But yeah, just that moment where he's firing down the base and like they're playing like a really good score in the back. It's like, this is what Thrawn is. Like, he wants a flawless victory, and had the one ship not tried to interrupt the one Star Destroyer, he would have won that fight most likely.
whoever did the sound editing or whatever, and the music mixing on Rebels deserves, because I know a lot of the themes are just John Williams classics, but some of that, the way it was edited, was just like so good at different parts of that show.
Definitely. Which actually, funny enough, we're talking about Rebels, but also The Mandalorian, which brings me to my next question. Bo-Katan, and I'm hoping maybe someone has paid enough attention, because I'm a little lost on this. So in Rebels, the last we see of the Darksaber before we get into Mandalorian is Sabine hands over the Darksaber to Bo-Katan. And what I'm confused about is she hands it to him. She doesn't win it via combat that we'd seen previously. And then in the season finale, they bring it up again where Moff Gideon's like, you beat me in combat, you get the Darksaber, but she just can't take it. But she did it before, and even if she won, she didn't have to kill Mando. She can just beat him in a fair fight and then take the Darksaber. Is there something I'm missing there, or is that just how it is?
This is what they did. Yeah, I don't know.
It's confusing right now. There's not really a lot of data on what happened between her taking it from Sabine and her not taking it from Din.
Yeah, I've been very interested to see how that plays out. So the next question I had, actually, and this one, feel free to take as much time to explain, is I was curious to know what all 3 of you, what are your top 3 favorite Star Wars films? This is excluding shows. These are solely films, and the anthology can be included. This time I wanted to start with Austin. What are your 3 top favorite Star Wars films?
I'm glad this question was brought up, because I actually have a list in my phone of my top favorite Star Wars movies ever since it was Solo, and then Rise of Skywalker has been last, correct?
Yes.
So
Correct.
off the top of my head, I know my top 3. I'll start with top 3. being Revenge of the Sith. I'm actually a fan of the prequels. I know they have their flaws. I know the sequels have their flaws. I even know that the OG trilogy has their flaws. But I think for as hit or miss as the screenplay or the script might be in Revenge of the Sith, I feel like it has a lot of redeeming qualities. I feel the lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan is still the best that we've seen in all 9 movies at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only real competition it has is maybe Qui-Gon v. Obi-Wan v. Darth Maul. That's just in my opinion. I remember being 10 years old when that movie came out and just being there at the midnight release, and it was amazing. It was everything I could have ever hoped it would be. It was I guess in a way, the climax of like everything that everyone had been waiting for, to see Anakin finally turn to the dark side, which granted, I think could have been executed a little bit better, but I'll take it for what it was. We got that kind of cringy scene where he first puts on the masks, but we won't talk about it. Just kind of fast forward through that scene real quick, and it's no big deal. Second is A New Hope. Recently, I've been saying that I think it is just the perfect movie, and not just in Star Wars. I think it's just the perfect movie. I think it has told the best story from beginning, middle to end. Like every single character, I think, is enjoyable and lovable, and there's someone that you can relate to. And if anyone can relate to Jabba the Hutt, then like more power to them. And I say that because he is in a deleted scene, which, if you have the Blu-ray, if you have the Blu-ray, you know what I'm talking about. No, like I said, I think everyone is enjoyable, everyone is relatable, everyone is lovable. Even the villain is someone that people really connected with. And not being there in 1977 when it came out, I still look at Darth Vader as this cultural icon, this very like superpower, and it's just amazing what can come from the mind of one person, being George Lucas, and just create someone so iconic and so memorable in Darth Vader. And again, I just think it's the perfect movie. I try and think of a flaw, and not very many come up, if at all. But just, I love it. It's definitely aged for what it is. The cinematography is still beautiful, albeit, a little hit or miss, especially with like the handling of the lightsaber. But I take it for the time from when it was created, and I love it. And Han Solo is without a doubt the best Star Wars character, just period, in my personal opinion. Like, I love him. He's been one of my favorites, apart from probably Obi-Wan at this point. And then finally at number 1, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I absolutely adore Rogue One. What can I not say about it? I could talk about it for the next hour if I really wanted to, but to sum it up in like, a couple of minutes, just, I love the tension. I love the characters. They all have their own personalities. And for a, relatively short movie compared to other Star Wars movies, I think all the characters are handled very well. And I think there's a lot of Easter eggs and fan service in there to make everyone happy. And you go in knowing that like, oh no, this is not going to end well for anyone involved. But the hallway scene is perfect. We all know that. Jin is a great protagonist. I really think that. K2SO is without a doubt my favorite droid.
Yeah, he definitely has something really special to that. I don't know what it is, but it's just K2 for sure.
I have to say, he really did steal the show for me. Just that movie was made thanks to K2SO. It really was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like how Darth Vader was handled very well. It wasn't about Darth Vader. He was kind of sidelined for the most part. It's not overdoing and, cashing in on people's nostalgia or the love for the overarching villain of that time period. Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect, just like A New Hope is. So, yeah, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope, and Rogue One.
You want to go, Bo? Because I'm full on listing out all of them right now. Why don't you do yours, Bo?
Yeah, no problem. So for me, my top is it's tough between Empire and Revenge of the Sith because on Empire it has just so much going on, and the way it starts off, and it's just so much going on, and it just leaves you at a cliffhanger. It's like, and yeah, so that's like my number one. I just think it has just a little bit of everything, and I just think that was my favorite. And then second would probably be Revenge of the Sith, and seeing Anakin turn and you're like killing younglings, that's always satisfying. Too bad they didn't show anything. And then third would probably be I would say Rogue One for me too. That's probably my top three. Just Rogue One, they just took a really different approach to that universe, and it paid off really well the way they did it. It's a beautiful film. They're all beautiful.
Yes.
So.
All right.
All right. So if I did my math correctly, I calculated 12 full-length features for Star Wars. So just real quick, I'll run through them. Number 12, the animated Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie. It is technically canon because it starts the Clone Wars, the show, but it's not a great movie. Like it's got its moments, but
I've seen that.
You can watch it on Disney Plus now. I think I've watched it a couple times, and it's got like Dooku and a lot of cool stuff in it, but I don't know. It's not that great overall. At 11 is Solo: A Star Wars Story, because it just felt like a very disjointed film that really didn't do a whole lot. And I still think the Kessel Run is totally kind of, I don't know, like I wasn't like blown away by what I thought the Kessel Run was going to be like. And that's just me. That's not the filmmaker's fault. It kind of was like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening. And then at the end, you're like, okay, like that's cool. And number 10 is The Rise of Skywalker. It gets a slight nod over Solo because it's an episodic movie, but again, did not stick the landing very well. And they build a lot of interesting themes, and then they kind of changed it up in episode 8, and then episode 9, just everything fell apart for me, a lot of it at least. Number 9, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I think it's stronger than episode 9, but I think because episode 9 is such a dumpster fire, episode 8 kind of gets pulled down a bit. Number 8 is Attack of the Clones. I think this movie is really boring in the middle, but it has a really awesome kind of subplot with Jango and Obi-Wan chasing him and kind of spying on him, and then he discovers this separatist movement showing up, and Yoda's like flipping out because he's like, why are there clones? Why do we have all these troops? Like, what's happening? Like, stuff was just kind of like accelerating really fast in that movie behind this like 2-hour boring chunk of like Anakin and Padme making cute eyes at each other the whole time. It's just like, this is, I don't know. But people rag on that movie. That movie's ending is probably one of the strongest endings in all of Star Wars. Just the Geonosian like sacrifice pit with all the Jedi coming in, and that's where Jango dies, and Boba kind of starts off on his journey, and that's the that's the flashpoint of the whole Clone Wars happening. And it's crazy how that movie ends up fitting in to when you like think of like how Palpatine's plan played out through all these movies. But number 7, The Force Awakens, I think it's still a good movie and I enjoy watching it, but you have to watch it and just not ask what happens after that movie ends, because afterwards it's just like, who cares? Excuse me, The Phantom Menace is the next. That's number 6. I love The Phantom Menace. And after hearing Dave Filoni talk about the consequence of Qui-Gon losing the Duel of the Fates to Darth Maul, like,
Yeah.
that ended because he was like Obi-Wan was a brother figure from that point on. He wasn't the father figure he really needed, what Qui-Gon was. And so Palpatine wins the Duel of the Fates over Qui-Gon with, by using Darth Maul. And of course, Obi-Wan then goes in and shreds his ass up. But
Yeah.
I still, the Duel of the Fates music is like, there's great music in Star Wars. Duel of the Fates is like next level, like God music. Like if there's like God tier Mortal Kombat players, there's like God tier cinematic like music, and John Williams is a beast. So there's Phantom Menace at 6. I've got Revenge of the Sith at 5. I think that's the best prequel movie. It's the most interesting to me. There's a lot of consequence in it, and it's a total, like, it's just a war movie the entire way through. Like shit just gets worse and worse, and in a lot of ways you could say it's, I don't know, it's the good guys do not win in Revenge of the Sith, and that's kind of cool. And in a lot of ways they don't win at all in any of the prequels, which I think is really fascinating. So Revenge of the Sith at 5. Oh, and the Obi-Wan and Anakin lightsaber fight is so good. I think that might be, it's got to be the best of all of them. Certainly the most like technically like proficient in everything.
Yeah.
But anyways, Revenge of the Sith at 5. I got Rogue One at 4 actually, because I love Rogue One so much. It's like, as far as war movie goes, as far as war movies go, that was probably like, I mean, like, it's enjoyable. There's a lot of characters in there, but you relate with all of them. I mean, I can't wait to see the Andor TV show with more Cassian Andor action. But like, just there's so much good stuff. And again, the good guys don't win in that movie, and it makes it really interesting. I don't know. It's, as far as storytelling goes and stuff, and the fact that it like bumps right up against A New Hope was like one of the best surprises. Like it has the Vader hallway scene. I mean, that is top tier Star Wars right there.
Yep. Agreed.
But I'm a traditionalist, so my top 3: number 3 is Empire Strikes Back, number 2 is A New Hope, and number 1 is Return of the Jedi. Because growing up, like Star Wars, I don't remember a time when I didn't know about Star Wars. Like it's that big. Like I've been that, like it's been around for me that long. So I grew up on the original trilogy, and Return of the Jedi, like it's not the best Star Wars movie, like technically. I mean, in any way, I think. But it's kind of the Return of the King or the Avengers Endgame of like everything comes to a head, and like that movie has a legit, like, this is where the story ends. And they've told other stories off of that, but that was the story end point. And that I love Return of the Jedi. But yeah, New Hope, probably my, like, as far as a movie is made, that's probably the best movie. And then same thing with Empire Strikes Back was crazy. Like Empire Strikes Back is the Infinity War type of just like, talk about, good guys being in a bad place. Like Han is frozen. Luke he lost an arm. He thinks Leia's his sister, I guess, at this point. It's just like, they're in a bad spot. But anyways, Return of the Jedi 1, New Hope 2, Empire Strikes Back 3. And I'm sorry if I went long with that part, but I love talking rankings.
Hey, no problem. That's awesome.
And it's funny, like, I'm really happy that Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith got love, because those are my 2 favorite Star Wars movies, with Rogue One being number 3. Like, one thing I think that like has always made Revenge of the Sith stand out the most for me is I remember when I was a child, when my dad and I went to see that movie, the scene where Palpatine first pulls out his lightsaber and everyone's kind of just like, this is about to happen. And like between that and also obviously Anakin versus Obi-Wan, which I think is the best dual aged. But I remember just those little moments. It's less than 25 seconds, I think, of Yoda and Sidious fighting on the Senate like podium that's going up in the Senate chamber. Like, and also talk about how they took. I'm also really glad that Duel of the Fates was brought up because they took the Battle of the Heroes, which I think was just as good as its own right, and then it then transferred into Duel of the Fates, and then went right back into Battle of Heroes. And I think, in terms of music, like I think I've never had chills down my spine for so long. Um, which actually brought me to something else I wanted to ask you guys about. So one thing I heard about, like when J.J. Abrams was speaking about the prequels when he was about to take on Force Awakens, is that he didn't like the fight scenes in the prequels. My perception was always that, similar to like animes, um, those fights were always supposed to breathe emotion and breathe story, but also on the technical, like if we're going to put ourselves in the world of Star Wars, is that the more in tune with the Force you are, the more you can sense your opponent's movements, and so you're looking for that opening. And then when you get to something like Episode 3, where Anakin's fighting Obi-Wan, and they have the one scene where they literally just start twirling their blades, is that they're looking for an opening, and also that lightsabers attract to each other, which has been demonstrated in not only Rebels but also Clone Wars and various video games like Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. Do you think that that is something that we should see going forward, or do you think the how they were handling the fights in the sequels is how it should be going forward?
Well, real quick, I do believe, I don't remember exactly what source it was, but I know there are a few that actually criticize the Qui-Gon v. Obi-Wan v. Darth Maul battle as being a little too choreographed and that it's a little too obvious that it is. Has anyone else heard that critique before?
Not really.
I don't know if I read it on maybe Wikipedia or wherever, or unless it's like a YouTube reviewer, I don't know. But that's definitely a critique that I've heard. I actually really like how the lightsaber duels were handled, especially in Episode 7. I like how you had characters like Rey and Finn, who at the time were not very in tune with the Force, and you could see that as it was put to camera, where Finn especially kind of is just, he's kind of just swinging at Kylo Ren there towards the end, where I think Rey has a little more finesse. So I kind of like to see lightsaber duels that aren't as clean, aren't as polished. We see characters who have yet to really hone in on their skills. So that's something I really appreciate. That, don't get me wrong, the choreography is fantastic in Episode 3, Episode 1, Episode 2, all of them really. But I kind of like to see that, you know, I know what I'm doing, but I haven't mastered the art of a lightsaber duel yet. I don't know. I like it.
It's okay, Kurosawa.
It's funnier than I have a very off-topic story, but Bo took me and a bunch of our coworkers at the time to this place actually right outside of where you live, Spencer. It's at that giant we used to go to as kids right outside of Crofton. It's this place called Bon John Chicken.
Oh, Bonchan, yeah.
He's like, you need to try the spicy chicken. So they don't just serve you one, like it's like a plate full of patties, but then they serve you a second plate, which is your side, which is equivalent big plate of patties. And that was like some garlic something, but I couldn't even finish the spicy ones. And I took a bite out of it. And
They're hot, bro. I'm surprised.
I swear to God, it was something you couldn't escape. So I'm downing Pepsi, trying to cleanse the spice, but my tongue is on fire. So I'm laughing and crying at the same time. And I run to the bathroom, and all of Bo's like friends who work there are laughing at me because like the guy, I asked the one guy, I was like, "How spicy are these?" He's like, "On a scale of 1 to 10, 8.5." And I'm like, "But I've never had these before." It's like
an Asian 8.5 is like a 12 for Henry Cloutier.
I was going to say, Caucasian Americans are severely underserved by the amount of spices put on their food. You go anywhere else in the world, Caucasians from Europe and anywhere else, they spice their stuff up like hardcore. They ate like some of the garbage we put in our bodies. He had to be, what the fuck are you guys doing with your nutrition? Like, this is horrible.
I'm just a giant waste compound.
They just fill you up with spicy food, so you shit a lot, and your bowels are nice and regular.
Yeah, the pipes are clean, man.
You eat a garlic, you listen to Uncle.
Oh, no. Okay.
Jackie?
So I have another question that I was really interested to get, which kind of like researched my love of Star Wars was obviously the scene that everyone hasn't stopped talking about, which is Luke's arrival in the Mandalorian, and like what I guess
I cried like a bitch.
yeah. My question was like, what was everyone's immediate reaction to it? I was watching these reactions from other YouTubers, and the two that like I feel like I was stuck between was there was Star Wars Theory where he was just crying the whole time
That
as
was
soon
me.
as he saw the black cloak, and then there was this other guy I saw where like it's the final Dark Trooper, and he puts out his glove and like he's doing the crush, and the guy's like, "Yeah, crush, crush, crush." I'm definitely
I've seen
tied
that one.
between those two, but like,
I
yeah, go ahead, Bo.
was gonna say I've only watched Star Wars Theory's reaction. I haven't watched anyone else's.
It's
I
tough.
haven't watched anybody's actually. I don't know. It was so good. I loved just basking in it. Like he goes, was it Fennec or was it Carrot? Somebody said like, oh, it's one X-wing, and it's like I immediately knew it was about to go down. Like it was like one X-wing. Are you fucking kidding me? It's a T-65B. It's Luke Skywalker. He's gonna kill him.
Have you seen that meme of Joey from Friends where like he's smiling and his eyes open up? I saw that one with the X-wing. It's like, oh, an X-wing. His eyes just open.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, I will say, like, I didn't know, I should have known Peter Cushing was dead a long time, but when in Rogue One they brought out the CGI Peter Cushing, I didn't realize it at first. I was like, oh my God, it's Grand Moff Tarkin. Like, oh my God. But it was CGI. Peter Cushing had been dead for quite some time. I knew that wasn't Luke. And it's unfortunate because if I didn't know Luke was like, if Mark Hamill was like a 60-year-old man now, I would have probably bought it. But I knew that it was CGI, and unfortunately, it's just like, but that is not, as far as the story goes, Luke was the perfect person to show up then. With R2, like, their connection to Yoda, the same species, the only other one we know from the species, other than like Yaddle from the holiday special, like, they needed to put him in good care. And I don't worry about the whole like fall of the Luke's temple and all that shit. I think they didn't create Grogu and Din Djarin's connection to be so like personal and deep just for him to go off and never show back up. Like, I would highly think because he spent time at the Jedi Temple, because he will spend time with Luke, he'll probably show up in like 2 seasons and be fully trained and ready to fuck shit up. Like, I would really think it's going to be like the next 2 seasons, Din's probably going to go and like they're going to reestablish Mandalore somewhere, new Mandalore. I don't know. And Din will help with that, and somebody will steal the Darksaber from Jin, and that person will kill whoever did that, and then that person will be the leader, I think, and then Din will be free to go somewhere else in about 2 seasons, probably, would be my guess, 2 or 3. But then I think, like, if somebody after him at that point, like, has he made, like, a mortal enemy who's just, like, you know, I don't know, like, I think of, like, Star Fox and Star Wolf and just how, like, they're just, like, rivals but also enemies, so they just, like, butt heads a lot of the time. And then maybe Grogu comes back then, and they could do a lot with Grogu's character, I think. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling. I'm sorry.
Let's your mind free.
You want to talk about Star Fox? I'll talk about Star Fox, but another day.
Do a barrel roll.
What's funny is actually, like, We could probably just do like
Fox, help
all
me!
about Star Fox and
Oh,
talk about surprises at the end of Star Fox Adventures. Spoiler alert for Star Fox Adventures, if anyone cares. At the very end of this, and I still love that game. I think that game is perfect. I know a lot of people hated. The only thing I didn't like is you couldn't fight General Scales, and then you get up in the space, and he's like, "To see you again, Phlox McCloud," and you're just like, "What?" It's Andros again.
Don't forget Oikony, his nephew, and Star Fox Assault.
Oh yeah.
My evil Uncle Andros.
we should all get together because I just got my GameCube fixed and I still have Star Fox Assault and 4 GameCube controllers. So if anyone's interested.
Oh shit.
I can't find my copy of Star Fox Adventures. I would really love, if anybody finds that game for cheap, I would love a copy of it for GameCube.
I have it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I have all the Star Foxes except for. No, actually, I lied. I have the first and second one because of the SNES Classic. I have 64 on my 3DS, Adventures, Assault, and what came after that, Zero, which I have. And then if you want to count Starlink, which was like the offshoot Ubisoft thing, I have that too.
Was that any good?
Starlink, yes, I thought it was. It
was kind of like adjacent to Star Fox in the same way Soul Calibur was adjacent to The Legend of Zelda, though, right?
Sort of. I think it was kind of Ubisoft's take on I was about to say Star Wars, Star Fox style of game, like an on the rails shooter. Except this one takes a more like No Man's Sky approach. And if only you have the Nintendo Switch, will you get Star Fox missions. Other than that, it's just a decent game. But Star Fox makes that game.
Sorry for the detour. You can go ahead and hard cut that point right there. What's the next question?
How do you do a barrel roll?
How the fuck do you do a barrel roll?
You push left or right twice, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the meme that never dies.
Jeez.
Oh man, where the frick were we?
You turn the controller left and then punch it.
Which actually, funny enough, was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Let's not go too far into this one. Just give me your favorite Star Wars video game.
Dude, Jedi Fallen Order for me, man. That was the most recent thing I played, and it stuck with me. Like, it's still fresh. Like, they did such a good job with that one. For me.
I will second that. I will second that. Fallen Order is definitely top for me, but a special shout out to essentially all of the Battlefront games except EA's first Battlefront. Battlefront 2 got a lot of hate, but what they were able to do with it and the fact that I bought it on sale for $5, I got my money's worth. It is a beautiful game.
Yeah. So Battlefront, I did like it, and it was fun when I finally got into like a X-Wing or something or anything flying. I was so excited. But there are other people around me so fucking good that I will only last for 2 seconds. I'm like, what the? I was like, this is so awesome. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm dead. So like,
that's why I settle for a super battle droid and just run around guns blazing until I get killed.
Pro tip for Star Wars Battlefront 2: you should play, if you go, I believe it's single player, or I forget exactly what it is, but it's you play co-op with other live people against AI. And so it's not PvP, which is so frustrating because there are some tryhards on that game, just like everywhere. And playing against only AI, like there's still heroes and villains, and I think some levels. I don't think you can use vehicles on those games for the most part, but you can. Me and my son have a ton of fun playing that. So I think you guys nailed it. Star Wars Battlefront 2, the second EA one, is great now. It didn't release great, but the DLC and the fixes of the bugs they did over time really made it great, but it kind of stinks that they're not making any more content for that game. Jedi Fallen Order is amazing, and anybody who has not played that game should play that game next. Like, add that to your next rotation because that game is so good. And it's Squadrons that just came out is amazing.
Yeah, I like Squadrons a lot.
Squadrons is crazy fun. Like, Hera's in that game, and just like it's awesome. So Squadrons is great. And then, I mean, just going back, I don't have to cover all of them, but I mean, Rogue Squadrons, the original Battlefront 2 and KOTOR, And I mean, you just go back through pod racing. I mean, there's a shameful amount of wonderful Star Wars games. Jedi, Outcast, uh, oh gosh, The
Oh,
Force
the Shadow of the
Unleashed,
Empire. Remember that one on N64?
Shadows of the Empire, Force Unleashed
That
1
one,
and
yeah.
2.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you just go all the way back, and I mean, yeah, Shadows of the Empire and the Dark Troopers in Mandalorian were obviously from one of those older games. I think was it Shadows of the Empire? I can't remember which one it was, but it was one from one of those older ones. So there's the lore and stuff that you get from those games runs really deep. And I think if I had to choose a favorite, it'd probably have to be Rogue Squadron of all time, because those games were, I mean, just all three of them were spectacular. But these new ones that we have, if I played these when I was a kid, I would never do anything else. Like it's that much fun.
I'm gonna have to go really off the wall and say Star Wars Bounty Hunter, because I remember like when Attack of the Clones came out, I thought that Jango Fett was the Boba Fett that we didn't really get in the originals, only because like we got to see more of like what being a Mandalorian was, which is funny because like I don't think I ever heard the word Mandalorian before that video game because they never mentioned it in the movie, and just to see everything that came, and that was actually one of the original reasons why when they first announced that The Mandalorian was a TV show, like I wasn't as hyped to watch it, mainly because like the actor who plays Django will always kind of be my Mandalorian. I remember like I know that game like the back of my hand, but then the fact that they brought him in, aged now obviously, to be Boba Fett, I just thought was like that was enough to get my money's worth. And then by the time I finally like got caught up, it just so happened to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna throw Luke Skywalker in here too, and I was.
There we go. That's
You get a
much better.
street light illuminating my beautiful face.
Are you driving or are you just sitting in a parking lot?
Oh no, I'm still sitting in a Rofo parking lot. I will say though, I do have to leave pretty soon though.
Okay.
I have to get up super early tomorrow.
No worries.
Yeah, we're probably getting to that point anyway. So I'm gonna ask one more question and just see where we're at. Top three Star Wars characters. When we kind of just go around the table. For me, it's Luke, Ezra, Obi-Wan.
I don't know. I gotta think about mine.
I'm sorry, it kind of glitched for a second. You said your three are Luke, Ezra, and Obi-Wan?
Yep, and mainly just because of like, I think Luke was number one for a very long time, and like obviously every time he shows up, it's like he's the original hero. I think in terms of like what being a Jedi is, like even more so than Qui-Gon Jinn is what Obi-Wan was. And I think it was best demonstrated when Maul kills his love interest in Clone Wars and he still doesn't turn, like he won't give into it. Like he's so hardcore a Jedi that it can't break. And that's, you know, of course, like I'm interested to see his more emotional side in the show that they're doing, but there's just this part of me that's like, don't break that consistency with the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. That is, he is consistently what like the purest Jedi that there ever has been, and he's walked the line that few others could. And then number three would be Ezra, because I just think I mean, he's so easy to relate to, but also you can see whereas opposite Obi-Wan, you can see the struggle with Ezra between the light and the dark. And also I think that his connection with all things in nature in the galaxy, like I think might make him one of the most powerful characters in Star Wars canon. I'm sure he's like, I want to see what his powers are, which is why I really hope that him and Sabine and Hera and Zeb and even Agent Callus. I think Agent Callus is. Oh, I meant to mention that too. I think Agent Callus is what they wanted to do with Finn in the sequel trilogy, but they actually went a little better at it. Like they made him more significant in what he did, and of course he had a fist fight with Thrawn and he got his ass whooped. But
The mutton chops, baby.
Right. I would actually, I can't believe I'm saying this because this is very hard for me, but I might even make Agent Callus in terms of like, I would definitely put him in like the top 5 for me. I don't know why. I just love seeing his character in the show.
Cool.
Who's next?
Go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah.
Oh, me? Top 3. I think from a character perspective, it's really tough. I love Qui-Gon Jinn is one of my top ones. I think him being he could have been on the council, and he did not. He didn't want to be on the council. He wanted to train Obi-Wan. He found Anakin, and he said, "This is what has to happen." And he was the first one to figure out Force ghosts that we know of. And so, yeah, I mean, Qui-Gon, I mean, just the fact that, like, I keep thinking of, like, he's the ultimate, like, what could have been character. What if he beat Darth Maul? How differently could have the entire universe changed? Probably wouldn't have been as interesting, but, you know, I think he's awesome. You know, so him, and then I think Anakin Skywalker, not necessarily the portrayal of the character, but him, it's really because of Clone Wars especially, but a little bit of Rebels too. How they really they fixed Anakin Skywalker in those 2 shows for me. I think they probably were trying to have him either overact, or I don't really know what was going on in the movies too much with kind of the dialogue that he had, but from a standpoint of like what he did and what he became, and because, you know, those 2 shows I mentioned, Rebels and Clone Wars, were so like good with Anakin's character, I thought that he becomes like one of the most interesting. I mean, like, he is the most powerful Jedi in a long time. Like, he was more powerful than anybody during the saga span that I know of. Like, I mean, he obviously didn't live past 6, but, you know, I think from about the end of episode 3 on, I mean, he was the most powerful for a while. But anyways, I don't really have like a hardcore third. I mean, Luke is hard to not bring up, because Luke is my favorite from the originals, and it's kind of diminished a bit by what happens in the sequel trilogy. But I still really like Luke Skywalker as a character, and I was beyond thrilled when he showed up and got Grogu. I guess for like an honorable mention, maybe, I'm really curious to see what happens with Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. Like, his story, he might be one of my favorites when it's all over. Like, he's an awesome character, and I am so pumped to see what happens with him now that he has the Darksaber and the Beskar spear. I mean, I can't wait. So those are my 3 with like a honorable mention.
Well, real quick, I'll say God tier for me is just the duo that is Han and Chewie. I love their dynamic on camera. I think they're hysterical. I also think they're lovable and charming. So for me, you just can't touch those characters. I will always like put them on a pedestal as the best, especially Han is just the best Star Wars character. For my top 3 though, at least it'll probably change by tomorrow. But by design alone, I absolutely love Kit Fisto with the alien dreadlocks and the blacked out eyes. You know, if you catch me playing, forgot to mention, Lego Star Wars they're all just phenomenal. Just quick side note.
Can't wait for the original saga.
Yeah, the original game, which is episodes 1, 2, and 3, catch me playing as Kit Fisto like every time on free play. Let's say Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think he's not the perfect Jedi, but he doesn't need to be that perfect Jedi. He needs to be that mentor and that brother figure to Anakin. And to watch their relationship like fall apart in episode 3 is absolutely tragic. You know, you are my brother, Anakin. I love you. Like, Ewan McGregor absolutely just nailed that performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, Alec Guinness is too. We can't forget him at all.
Well, and Obi-Wan Kenobi for me is very much like that Captain America for, you know, the prequel trilogy and stuff. Like, he was always on the right side the entire time, even though it wasn't like the popular opinion or whatever it seemed like.
I agree. He is that always do good or at least have the best intentions in mind. He struggles so hard to be that mentor, and you can see that he wants that for not only Anakin but himself. And then just a real quick, I think Christopher Lee as Count Dooku goes extremely under the radar. You know, I'll talk about Saruman in a different day, but like Christopher Lee as Count Dooku, I don't think we got enough screen time with him. I absolutely love just watching Christopher Lee like just on screen. It's perfect. So just the kind of shadiness around him, you don't know too much, especially if you're just watching the movies. And to see him be this dominant force at the end of Attack of the Clones, you know, someone to really be feared, but then not so easily subdued in Revenge of the Sith, but see someone who is meant to be menacing and feared all of a sudden cower in fear that, you know, his death is coming in episode 3. Just the range of that character and the mystery that surrounds him. It's just like, I always want to read or see more of Count Dooku all the time. So Christopher Lee can't go unnoticed.
All right, it's my top 3. So for me, it's Kanan from Rebels, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul and Ahsoka are kind of like the same on a third. But I really like, I tend to be drawn towards the more of like the mentor type people that kind of sacrifice themselves. It just for some reason resonates with me a lot, because I feel like I'd be the type of person that kind of sacrifice myself for, you know, friends and family. And I get behind that, you know, why they're fighting. And that's really who I like the most. And Darth Maul obviously is evil, but he's had a pretty decent backstory and surviving and everything. So it's, I just like to see more of that. We know how it ends with him too. So, but yeah, those are my top 3 right now. There's just you know, 2 they're all gone actually. So, but I just loved all their stories, and I'd like to see more Qui-Gon, you know, like when he was maybe learning and growing up and stuff.
I literally probably thought of every single one of the names that. Oh, sorry, there was a weird glitch for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, what? What?
Do you know the way?
That was all those names that you all brought up were like exactly who I was trying to like think about in that quick moment, because I've never actually like ranked. I have such a hard time ranking characters in universes like this that are just so. It's like, but what about Cal Kestis, and what about like just there was the one fallen Jedi who was just sitting on Dathomir, who was like terrorizing Night Sisters and Night Brothers, and it was just like, dude, who the fuck are you, man? Like,
got shirt off and shit.
he looked awesome, but like Darth Maul, that's a great pick. Kanan, that's a great pick. It's just like all of your picks were, all 3 of you guys, very high quality picks in my opinion. Cad Bane, that's another one that would be super interesting.
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those bounty hunters that like never lost. I don't think Cad Bane ever lost.
Pretty badass, yeah.
He could show up in Mandalorian. That'd be dope.
I'm fine with that.
All right, my friends. Well, I guess it's time to call it night. But yeah, we should. If anyone's watching this, maybe next time we can get some more people to join the conversation. Good night, my friends.
I appreciate you guys' time.
Tune in next time for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh.
I'll do it.
We should
May the force be with you.
Cut recording and then everybody leave.
All right, guys, take care.
Yep. See ya.
Peace.
See ya.